Do you hear that? That's actually the sound of an energy drink because it's early as fuck this morning. Welcome back to another Joint Discussions.
We're so excited to have you here. I hope you had a good first quote unquote holiday a week or so ago. I'm Lauren Wild. I am one of the co-hosts here on Joint Discussions. I am half of this whole and my fellow co-host and beloved James Mummert.
Hello, hello. We took a week off last week.
We had to.
We needed to. It was the week after a very, very intensive
Crisis week.
Yes, I guess you could call it a crisis week, but it was an intensive week because it was a holiday break, and it was intensive that way because we had no kids actually at school.
Yeah.
But we have been dealing with some mental health crises with some of our children.
Yeah.
And it's been a couple of weeks now, and we're finally getting a chance to sit down, kind of reflect on what it's been like. So, welcome to episode 15 of Joint Discussions. Let's open up a THC beverage or light one up. I actually am going to light one up in the morning, but I needed this energy drink because I'm dragging. But you have a work day, a normal work day, so you're going to let me power through this one with the weed.
Yeah, I am also getting to this really interesting place because in the midst of the last couple of weeks, not only have we had some mental health crises in our home, but I also had an organ removed.
Yeah, one of those little O words, organs.
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of tell people anything about that or just leave it there?
Yeah. I had my gallbladder removed, and evidently it's like a very normal thing to have removed at this point in humanity. There's lots of different reasons why they're saying they're getting removed so much, but we won't get into that today. It's been more so about trying to take care of myself and recover from a surgery that like literally moved around and like tussled with all my organs and then took one out.
Yeah, we've been dealing with a lot of kind of just different issues with different folks in the house. Some of them headspace, some of them stomach-wise, some of them just other things. And you've been, for a while, kind of working through some health stuff.
Yep.
And it's been a journey so far, but we're really hoping that this removal of said organ is going to help set you back on track to being a little bit more normalized with what you can expect. You still have some dietary restrictions, but hopefully there's a little bit more of an equilibrium struck when it comes to your health with your gut and your stomach and things like that. So
yeah, it's been really since about 2023 that my health issues started. Well, 2022 actually. And it's been a long journey of various different issues, but at this point, for those of you guys that, don't know us or were listening from the beginning, welcome. We love to have you here. But hello. I almost died in March from like a strange extreme fever that almost killed me. I had like a 106.5 to 107 degree fever.
It was like 105.
No, I looked at the report. It was 106.5.
People die there.
I know. That's why.
Literally die.
Are you just now realizing that when I say that I felt like I died and came back, do you think I was kidding or being like symbolistic or something?
I just don't know. I've literally never in my life heard of somebody have 106.5 fever. I've never heard it go over like 105. So I didn't.
That's why they crash carted me, honey. Like, I guess there. You weren't there for the very beginning when I got to the hospital, though.
I wasn't. But if for those who are new to this space or new to us, that was probably that was like the second pivotal moment in our relationship.
Yeah.
That was this fateful weekend in March
So annoying.
when you and I were both actually set to fly to Florida or
That day.
drive. Yeah, that day. And I was set to play in this really big disc golf tournament that I love to travel to. And we were still semi early in our relationship.
Yeah.
But it was that day that I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to go on this trip without you. It's us on this trip or nobody on this trip.
Yeah. Well, you have some, hopefully I can say this, hospital trauma, which makes sense after spending 2 years in a hospital with your son, amongst other things. But he stayed. And that was like when I feel like we really locked in a whole new different way.
Most definitely.
My parents decided you were like, okay, yeah,
Yeah, this
I like
guy's
him.
for real.
He's serious.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a pivotal moment, and it was in a hospital where, yes, I do have said trauma in a hospital, and that might be kind of a good segue into some of what our situation has been like in the last month or so.
Yeah, no, I agree. Do you want to take us there, babe?
Absolutely, and obviously there will be no names or anything like that, but one of our children has been going through some pretty serious mental health crisis into the form of ideations of ending life.
Yeah, unaliving,
suicide for trigger. I don't know.
You just say unaliving.
Unaliving. But it's really fucking scary when that is a child.
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary as an adult. And again, I have trauma from that itself with all of my military past. But this crisis has ended us up back into a hospital.
With a child.
This time, a mental health institution where I have specific traumas because I spent some time there.
Yep.
In
So did I.
2021, 2022. And it's also even more complicated because the ex and I did not agree on the severity of what was going on, or maybe they thought it was severe but didn't know what that actually meant to look like to treat it.
Yeah. Didn't want to accept it, I think is a good way to say it. And then also a true disagreement on the course of treatment and what was necessary to get there.
And it's really was frustrating for me.
For all of us.
For all of us, yes, but it was frustrating for me, and I've told you this as much when it comes to being a man in the hospital with a child. But both of the biological parents are there.
Yeah.
It is, and you've kind of confirmed as much, it is a thing that medical staff and things tend to lean more towards mom than dad, even if dad was the one that brought them there, which it blows me away, but I understand in some ways. So the week of Thanksgiving just carried a lot of, and the week before that carried a lot of personal intensity for me in a lot of different angles. Like I said, not only with one of our children, but also this thing with dad versus mom and medical, but also part of that was like the gaslighting that feels like it happens. Yeah. So what happened is we had one of our sons have a moment the night before we ended up taking him into something. He came into our room and was saying some things that were alarming, especially given the last 15 days or so of this whole thing. We had a child that we will just say made an attempt or looked like he was making an attempt. And in the very initial, he was out of a window. Okay.
There was motivation with follow through. So,
and then not even
key.
A week before that, not even a week before our situation when he came into our house, he had actually gotten a knife.
Yeah.
And in a kitchenette the other parent's house and did nothing, but it's fucking scary.
Yeah. I mean, it just brings so much up because if you're okay with me going into part of the treatment, how much, the hospital staff, I guess you would say, the treatment team would say, is the screens and how much of an impact they're having on these kids and their mental health and just this generation in general. And we got to this really interesting place together. And I know I just started to notice the way that especially our two youngest have regressed into some really childlike behaviors over the last, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks. Temper tantrums, needing to sleep in our room, like just some probably more for like 6-year-olds to 8-year-olds. And we were like, okay, they need him to get off of these particular apps, Roblox being one of the big ones, and anything brain rot.
It's Roblox and some of those things, but the doctor clearly said, listen, anything more than 2 hours in a day has been shown and proven. We read that and we kind of knew about that, but this was actually a doctor face to face telling us, over 2 hours shows that it increases your child's chances of depression, of anxiety, and of stress, and all of these other things that are really fucking scary for a 9, 10, 11, 12,
a generation
14-year-old to go through.
A generation. I mean, they're all so addicted, and part of, I've been doing a bunch of research on this because that's what I love to do, but part of it is how this whole generation is being programmed for immediate gratification. Like they have less than a 2-second ability to pay attention to something because everything's been served to them in these like YouTube shorts and things like that, that their focus does not exist beyond 2 seconds.
But it's also having a giant effect on adults too.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Our younger generation is getting wired that way, but it's happening to adults as well. You say Roblox, you say YouTube Shorts.
It's everywhere.
And then I say, how about Instagram? How about Reddit? How about Facebook? How about any of these social media platforms where you can just doom scroll? The doom scrolling is literally part of the same principle as YouTube Shorts, and how it's wiring your brain to be unable to do things.
Break it.
Without focus. Like how hard really was it back in the 90s and whatever to just read a book for a few hours because you could handle a long situation, but now, or like a long period of one thing, but now even adults' brains are being wired to this. Like you're incapable of doing anything. Yeah, our kids are like 2 seconds, but adults sometimes are like 30 seconds or a minute. Like think to yourself, how many times in a day do I just pick up the phone in a random 1 minute or 5 minute, or whatever, to just look at something because I'm not doing anything in that exact moment. Like, oh, I'm at a red light. Let me just open my phone for a minute.
It's just so
I'm waiting
wired.
for my food. All of that is really gonna be the death of our generation, of our world. Sorry, not generation, of our world. Like we are legitimately headed towards a real life Wall-E situation.
Idiocracy.
And idiocracy, like those two together. Because I don't think maybe everybody will be just huge and in chairs like Wall-E, but we're getting to a point where we're over.
We're going
consuming.
backwards in evolution. We're getting dumber.
We are getting dumber, but our tech is getting smarter.
Yep.
And that's a really bad thing. If humans go backwards while tech goes forwards, that's how you get run by robots, people. But going back a little bit.
Well, hold on. I want to share one last thing on your point, and that is, as a social media content creator, You literally get penalized if you create things longer than 15 seconds on Instagram, which is more of like the millennial culture. So 15 seconds. But the generation alpha is way more on YouTube. So they're on YouTube shorts when they get penalized to go after over 10 seconds. Isn't that crazy?
If something's going to penalize me for something like that, that would be difficult. I know that's not my career, so I'm not attempting to be like, well, you can't do that. That would be so frustrating because that's how we pay our bills.
I was going to say, that pays for our life.
Because you work really hard and online, and it is a thing for sure. So what I wanted to kind of swing back to was this whole thing with hospital, mental health, the gaslighting.
Oh, okay.
Because that week, so we get back to the point where one of our sons came into our room, had these thoughts. The next morning, they were still not feeling well in the head. And you and I were like, we need to take them immediately to the crisis
Center.
place, the crisis center. And I agreed. We agreed. And so we did that. And we sat there. Well, when I say we, me and my son, one of our sons, sat there for about 6 hours.
Yep.
And 5.5 of those hours, we were in one room, like a waiting space with a couch and a TV that has no remote.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to watch SpongeBob
Yeah, I remember.
for 5.5 hours.
Was that the first day? I thought that was the second day. That was the second day.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Maybe it was.
It was.
I
I remember. SpongeBob was the second day.
Anyways, SpongeBob is the devil. Sorry, sometimes I just want to play with my little board here.
God.
SpongeBob, that was a lot. And
This
now,
is the difference between one co-host being high and the other one not, with a timeline before I have an appointment.
you're like, cut the shit, Jamie. But okay, so Thursday, we get to the place where the actual therapist or evaluator comes in.
Yep.
And told me and you and all the people in the room, yeah, I don't think this is a crisis.
Oh God, I still want to like punch her.
So
in
I
her
say,
face.
I'm screaming from the hills, saying, okay, look what happened 2 weeks ago. Look what happened 2 days ago or 3 days ago. And now this. Why? Tell me why this is not a crisis. Well, it's not happening in the moment.
Oh my God, that made me so mad.
And it just felt like, what do you mean this isn't a crisis? What? And I even said in the room, I said, what is a crisis?
Yeah, I remember. Especially for a minor.
It feels like a crisis for a minor child is they haven't had ideations of unaliving themselves their entire lives, but in the last 30 to 40 days, they've attempted 2 different times and talked about it more than that. Like, that's not a crisis to you?
Yeah, and then they wonder why child and teen suicide is so prevalent. They can't even acknowledge it right when it's in front of their face.
It's really, really insane to me. And as somebody, and we obviously you and I, we've talked about it just a few minutes ago, like we've both had our own stints and interactions with mental health. And for me, someone who's lost so many people from the military, from unaliving, who am I to like say, well, I should be caught? You know, it's not a big thing. Like he didn't actually make an attempt. He was just talking about it.
I cannot.
I don't want to be the friend that doesn't take that seriously, let alone the fucking father.
I know.
It just felt so like, what is happening? But the next day, our child had a regularly scheduled therapy appointment right there at the same place. Not the crisis center, like the therapy.
Just the therapy.
Side.
He had a pre-scheduled appointment the next day.
And what do you know? There was no talking, and the therapist is like, I think he should be admitted. This is more serious because they have seen him every week for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And there was, so then turned into, okay, now we're getting admitted.
Yep.
And that means overnight stays first in the emergency room because there won't be beds. And then the child will move on to their own inpatient where no parents are,
Yeah.
etc. It was a lot. It felt so, I had so many emotions going through myself at that time. There was a lot of anger towards my ex and towards the hospital staff from the day before.
Yeah.
Who minimalized this and said, no, that's not a crisis. And then not even 24 hours later, he's right back there.
Yeah.
But there was so much sadness and also trauma, like trigger for me, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm committing my son because I think it's the best thing to do to a situation that I went through, and it was awful.
Yeah. I shared a very similar trigger vein as you, and still do, because I was the one that got Baker acted starting from 15 and beyond. Baker acted is a term used in Florida. I was raised in Florida, where you can be admitted to the hospital if someone outside of you believes that you are harm to yourself or somebody else. So
is that even, could that be non-family?
Depends on the situation, but yeah, my parents literally like kidnapped me from where I was and tricked me and like took me. So that's beyond the point. It was also interesting just being a part of the room that was an adolescent that had to do stuff like this, and knowing like how important this was and how scary it was, but how necessary it was to speed up his treatment plan, because otherwise what success we've seen in the last, week and a half could potentially take 6 months to even get there. And we didn't have that kind of time. He's a minor with big feelings. And then it was just almost terrifying how similar the parallel was. Oh, it makes me want to cry. How similar the parallel was with my oldest bio kid and what he went through, and how much difficulty I went with my ex with him, and literally going as far as him telling me that I was making it up to try to ruin his new marriage, and being gaslit for a year and a half. And finally, the only thing that made him realize it was real is that they got a suicide letter at school, and they only called me about this stuff because I was the only one who took it seriously. So I told them that day, you need to call his dad and explain exactly what's going on, because he thinks I'm trying to ruin his marriage. So then finally, he has to go and see the letter and all the things and hear all the stories, and then doesn't even apologize or take any responsibility about how he let me, or forced me really, into being the only one that cared about our son's mental health at that time. So it was just so interesting how I had to watch you have to go through a version of that too.
Yeah, we talked about that situation with your oldest bio early on when we were dating, kind of getting to know each other. And there were so many parallels to the stay that this other child is going through, in the beginning at least. And yeah, it was definitely not to the level that you received it, the gaslighting and the non-seriousness, but it's very surprising to me that being someone who shares an extremely complex, medically fragile child who takes a speck of dust seriously for that child wouldn't take that seriously and be like, no, I don't think he should stay. No, I don't think there should be any medications. No, I don't think he needs these things. And it's like, what the actual...
It's why we're both divorced. Like, to segue into ourselves, it's why we're divorced. It's complicated and it's so wild when you get on the other side and you're not trying to make it work with this complicated gaslighting oriented person that never wants to take responsibility or look at something, even when it's your own child, because it could possibly reflect poorly on your caretaking.
Yeah, and we saw that more in the hospital. Now, we don't have time to talk through that weekend, but let's just say things got way over the line.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Still recovering from that.
I want to ask you a little bit, because this is applicable, I'm sure, to so many people listening. The role of a step parent in a situation like this. Now, this is not the most ideal, and this is the part where we just have to acknowledge it. You are not a legal step parent yet.
Yeah.
So there is a distinction with some of the rights that you would have, but I just would like, if you're comfortable sharing, can you walk through a little bit of some of the things that a step parent goes through on when it's not your biological child and you're dealing with the rights and decisions of another parent who, in this situation, is a lot more involved in that than maybe what your ex would be in the process with your oldest?
Yeah. Being a step parent in this situation was a whole new experience personally for me. Again, I feel like this could really make me cry. Yeah, for any other step parent figures, I just wasn't prepared for how much you almost don't matter, even when you live with them 50% of the time, and you are the parent that is tracking a lot of the mental health related things. And, you know, I went to school to be a psychotherapist for 2 years. I mean, eventually when I got evangelized, I went into pastoral leadership. And then, you know, when I had my spiritual awakening, it turned into more like being a spiritual advisor. But I just wasn't prepared because I am a mom and I know how involved and how crucial it is to be on top of it and to pay attention to behaviors, because not only did I have to do it with my oldest biological son, but I experienced it as a child. Like, I knew what he was going to come up against. I knew how he was going to have to sleep in a room by himself. I knew all the terrifying things that were going to shape him into the very compassionate teenager and adult one day, because that's what happened to me, and that's what made me so compassionate and capable of being with people in darkness. But as a step parent, part of what made it complicated, but I know is a very typical response, is that his biological mom really felt the need to invalidate any kind of opinion, any kind of witnessing, any kind of tracking behavior. She just didn't want to hear from me in general. And it was a very revealing time on a personal level between you and I, because I was able to see how much she was not over the end of your family together. It was very apparent to me. And there was also this very chaotic thing that happened over the weekend that, again, we're not going to get into, but where I was literally yelled at and threatened, not by bio mom, but someone in their camp. And it just really hurt. I'm still recovering from it. And I know that this isn't very uncommon for a step parent to endure. It just was a lot so early in our relationship, and feeling the limitations of not being considered like a true step parent. So it was a complicated kind of paradox between the sorrow and the confusion of like, your words really don't matter right now, when I know I have a lot of awareness because I spend a lot of time with this child. And then also this aspect that he loves me enough and you love me enough to advocate to have me in a room that was just such an interesting thing, like integration point that I haven't fully integrated yet.
It was really hard to watch that go down, that incident. It's been hard to watch it happen over time when I know and my bio kids know how integral of a part of their lives that you play and how important you are to them. But all of the outside noise has been so loud and frequent from a small minority that it's been overpowering. And I can't even imagine. We've both received some icy treatment from our respective exes, but none to the level of what you've had to go through. I want to commend all of the steps out there. You just got to keep being present in the kids' lives, and there's going to be a lot of outside noise, but what most matters is the family that we have within these walls. It's a process to get there fully, but there's definitely space for those feelings during it because they're very real and they're very hurtful.
Yeah, I think that for any potential step parent or people that are dating other people that have kids, especially with involved exes, I had this very real moment at that time, especially during the weekend, where I had this stark realization that if you are dating or in a relationship with a person that has kids that are not biologically yours, you have to be just in love, the same amount of in love with the kids as you are with the person that you're with, because I can tell you that if I didn't love my stepkids the same way that I love my biological kids, that could have caused a lot of serious problems for us. But because you and I were on the exact same page about the most important person is this child getting treatment, nothing else matters, and we'll deal with the emotional pain afterwards. We'll recover. But right now, we have to be united in doubling down and making sure that this, treatment plan is going to be pulled through. Because if not, and you are only in love with the person that has the children and not the children, or that weekend was such an important moment for me to really recognize inside of myself, like, these are my kids too. The amount of anger and offense it brought up was very interesting because it's like, I am equally as involved. I don't consider myself any different, and I would do the same for my biological kids and not have any blocks, in the way that I would just push. I wouldn't even consider anything else. But there is a level of restraint and discipline that you have to know your role in those kinds of rooms and situations.
I think of it this way. You have to be willing to go to battle. But the distinction is you cannot be wanting to go to battle against the other parent. You have to be willing to go to battle for your child.
Yep. You have to prioritize the child.
And I felt those same things with your bios. That's why we are on the same page, because we love all 6 of our kids equally. We love them to the same intensity and the same amount of, I'm going to fight for this because that's what's right for our children.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that we have that. But I think we should spend maybe the last 5-10 minutes kind of talking about the week after actual Thanksgiving. It was a holiday break, but we took a very concerted effort to be present. We talked about it in a prior episode, to be present in the activities that we put on for the kids instead of just providing them activities, because
it makes all the difference.
It does make all the difference. And I'll let you kind of talk for a minute or two about that.
Yeah, I mean, we call Jamie he is the game master
or game warden, I think.
You're the warden. 1,000,000% that is your archetype. You are the game warden. He can count so fast in Yahtzee. It just blows my literal mind. But that's besides the point. So we took the doctor's advice. Obviously, we got to get their screen time down. We had talked about how we have to start treating these kids age appropriately. We have kids that are with us 50% of the time, 100%, 50% of the time on the weeks we have them. We have another child that doesn't get to spend as much time with us yet, unfortunately. But those 5 range from 9 to 14. Where we are seeing the most challenge is really between 9 to 12, and our oldest is on the spectrum, so could definitely vibe at the 12 age range. So we just made a hardcore decision that we are only going to do things that are rated for the ages of 9 to 12. And like, how are we going to slow them down and get them off their screens and get them to interact? Well, James had a great idea, and he called it gamesgiving.
Gamesgiving.
It was so great, and I know it was so exhausting for you, but we played so many different kinds of games. We also cooked together a lot that week. We watched Christmas movies together, but we really reinforced that we're doing stuff as a family, and the parent that is available has to be the anchor, right? Like the body anchor is what we call in the ADHD language world, that is going to help ground these kids so that they will sit. Because we've been doing these kinds of experiments where James will be cooking dinner and I'll start coloring. And then all of a sudden they all move to the kitchen and they sit at the bar and they talk, or they help cook, or they sit at our table that we moved into our kitchen nest kind of area. And I pull all these crayons and stuff out, and they are always there. When we sit down and we're not working or we're not present, or we are present, like, they come to us like tractor beams.
Yeah, and that just reinforces that whole mindset that our kids are actual kids' ages. Like when we were 9, we were not constantly screened up. We were doing so many more things. Now, you might not have had a present parent,
Yeah.
but you had other things to do. So now if you have parents who are present, they should be present and not on phones of their own or things like that. So we just leaned in. We created Gamesgiving. We played hella a lot of games. I don't even remember how many it was.
So many.
It was a blur because literally from about 11 a.m., get lunch ready, whatever, they kind of got to tool around in the morning. But at around 11 a.m., we started lunch, and then after that, it was games until our oldest, not our oldest, but one of our kids who we've talked about was out of the program for the day.
Yeah.
And then it was games, dinner,
Yep.
a game again, and then a movie. And it was every day.
Yes. And I really think that removing the screens is obviously helpful because it gives them the ability to focus more than 2 seconds, literally. The meltdowns were so much less severe, and they had something to look forward to because we had like a structure in our day. Like, they knew what to expect, and I think it reduced a lot of their anxiety, like a lot of the kids' anxiety, because they knew kind of here's the flow of how it's going to be, and you're not doing this by yourself. You're doing this with a present parent, and I cannot tell you how much I think that present parent playing is a really important word right there, because they're playing. Because when I was 9 years old, I was still playing with Barbies. I was playing dress up. I was getting these like cheap ass little makeup sets and sitting in front of like a mirror, like kid set, to put on my makeup and listening to cassettes. So when I think about that in the context of, our 9-year-old watched Squid Games and Saw and Scream and, has been playing all of this brain rot and stuff. I'm like, I could have never handled that as a kid. That would have given me so much anxiety to be staring at a screen all the time.
And taking away the screens and being present also revealed from some of our other children how much attention they actually want and need.
Yes.
The one-on-one quality time. I noticed one of your bios was really attached to you.
Yep.
and the evenings was very like touchy, very just like cuddly. And it's because the screens were taken away. And I think they had a few minutes to process like, oh my God, I actually am craving some of these things.
Yeah.
Not just the short-term bullshit video games. And it identified for both of us, some of our children that we need to kind of hone in a little bit on in these upcoming weeks like we've been trying to do. And spend some more quality, like dedicated quality time, not like ad lib, like on the spur of the moment, but like, hey, buddy, tomorrow let's do this at this time.
Yeah.
Let's spend a little time. So this has been a long and heavy episode, especially up front.
Yeah.
But the tail end of the episode, I want this episode ultimately to be encouraging because we've experienced such exponential gains by just some of the life and the crisis thrown at us. Like, I'm so proud of us for meeting crisis, and instead of just surviving crisis, which I've done for so many years, just survive it, we're trying to make the most out of it and let it identify things that we can do to help reset our family and our kids.
No, not just our kids, but ourselves. I think that it became extremely clear to me in the last week, you know, that we had all the kids and we had so much interaction and we were able to kind of just pay attention to their needs and their impulses and the things that, you know, they crave. It allowed me to be able to see like where their needs to play also could trigger us because we didn't get played with. You know, there's this whole thing going on between bedroom kids and living room kids. And we have majority living room kids besides one, and how much it's kind of exhausting and also like so good, but how, you know, when you put all of your energy and attention on your kids and you have nothing left for yourself, how complicated that is. So that's one of the things. And I think it's a good place to be able to like talk about in our next session, which is like, we don't have a lot of additional family to help us out. We don't have a lot of additional family to like step in and entertain kids. I know that my parents never played with me. Like they were not ones that played with me. So it's just a really interesting thing because if we called them and asked them to come over, I mean, they would sit down and like watch TV and be present, like babysit, but I very seriously doubt that they would interact and play with them.
Yeah, that
is another.
The whole topic of present versus being present.
Yeah.
Physical presence versus total presence.
Yeah.
That's a great episode and something I think we should get into next. But it's hard to do with 5 kids because there's so many when you're trying to be parents to the living room kids.
Yeah.
But a lot of people listening probably don't have 5 kids. So you might have 1 or 2 or 3, whatever it is. Take some of these, take the screens away. Take the screens away.
Seriously.
And
But you have to be present because they have absolutely no skills to communicate. None.
Right. You say, oh, I'm going to set out drawing materials or I'm going to do this.
Send them outside.
And they do not know what to do. So you must be present. But this is a great time to wrap up. This has been another episode of Joint Discussions. Babe, where can people find us?
Yeah. So you're going to look for Joint Discussions Pod literally anywhere. We have secured that name. So if you go to YouTube, if you go to Instagram, first of all, we would love to chat with you. If you want to send us some messages, we love to hear if anything is resonating. We love to hear topics. So please reach out and interact if you guys are liking what we're talking about, if you want us to talk about certain issues that could be bigger conversations that you might recommend. But also check us out on Patreon. We have a community there, guys. It's free, and we are really trying to get that moving into more of a communication and group experience. So please find us on Patreon at Joint Discussions Pod. Otherwise, we hope that you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Ciao.